This is the Marvel Masterworks Vidcast, True Believers, where we cover all of the adventures in the Marvel Universe. From the wanderings of the Green Goliath, to the chaotic offices of the Daily Bugle, to the grim alleyways of Hell's Kitchen, and to the top of Avengers Tower, with your hosts, Adam and the Emerald Enthusiast.
Welcome to another episode of the Marvel Masterworks Vidcast and Podcast. I'm your host, Adam, and with me is my co-host, Donnie.
What's up, comic book fans? It's the man whose ring runs on fanboy energy. It is the Emerald Enthusiast, and I'm making it through this intro, and we're gonna get through this episode.
Folks, it's a crapshoot today.
Shenanigans, electronic shenanigans.
The internet doesn't want to work, but yes, here we are. It seems to be working now. I am your host, Adam, and this is Donnie, the Emerald Enthusiast, as he alluded to while I was having a fit. But we are here to talk about the main portion of our show will be She-Hulk, episodes 5, 6, and 7.
Yes.
We are a little bit behind because the actual season is over, but we had other things that needed our coverage, so we did those episodes, and now we're back to talking She-Hulk. But you viewers and listeners responded to our last episode quite well, and we appreciate your tuning into that episode. I think it was Donnie's fancy title about twerking that really got that algorithm going. But anyway, so I have to come up with another fancy title for this one.
I'll have to get creative again.
But as we always do, if there is any news within the Marvel Universe, be it comics or film and television, we covered before our main portion of the show. And there is news this week. Now, what we are about to discuss has not yet been confirmed by the likes of the Hollywood Reporter, Variety, or Deadline. However, the sources reliable or covering it are reliable websites and outlets, and that's why I felt it important to cover. Donnie and I will never cover anything from the likes of We Got This Covered or Sil Abdul or Comic Book Cast 2, because those are the three outlets that I consider the toilet paper of the comic book movie and television space. So we'll never cover it if it's coming from there. But thankfully, this news is coming from more reputable people like Slash Film, etc., etc. There's a bunch of them that I don't want to go through the list. Discussing Film, I think, even covered it. So there's a couple that are talking about it. Now, if you'll remember the MCU up until this point, William Hurt has played General Thunderbolt Ross since The Incredible Hulk in 2008, correct?
Yes. And also made an appearance in Captain America Civil War. Correct.
Sadly, William Hurt passed away, which is unfortunate, but when we're dealing with real living human beings, unfortunately that happens. But the fictional MCU apparently still needs a General Ross, and they have decided to recast the part, especially with the film Thunderbolts coming up, which he is, if you read the comics, an integral part of founding that team. And so it seems like Marvel has found their next actor to take up the mantle of General Ross, and that is none other than Indiana Jones and Han Solo himself, Harrison Ford. Donnie, what do you think about this casting?
I had a fun time thinking about Harrison Ford's voice coming out of the Red Hulk.
Yeah.
Because that's what I want to see, and he's supposed to have a little bit older, kind of a gravelly voice, and I think it could work, and he wouldn't have to do a lot of really physical stuff, because if he were to become the Red Hulk, it would be a CGI heavy character.
Yeah.
And as far as Harrison Ford, he can pretty much do any kind of part and pull it off. The guy has been around forever. He's done so much. He has an endless amount of ability. I certainly think if he is this character, if he is Thunderbolt Ross, he would do justice by this character.
Yeah, I agree with everything you just said. If this information is to be believed, it's a fantastic signing for the MCU. And I have no, again, because the Hulk is heavily CGI. I have no qualms about Harrison Ford's age.
Not at all.
Because he came back to do another Indiana Jones for Lord's sake, and that required him to be on set and running around and doing those things. With the Hulk, he doesn't even have to wear the mocap pajamas per se. All he really has to do is put those dots on his face, and they can scan his face, and he can do the facial motions, and if need be, they can have somebody else do the body work, right?
Yeah, they can have somebody else be the reference.
Yeah, and he can.
And by the way, since we're going to talk about She-Hulk, I want to call out somebody here on Twitter, and I mean that in a positive way.
Oh, okay.
And ma'am, I hope I'm not butchering your name here because I follow you on Twitter. Her name is Malia Nahinu, and she is the She-Hulk reference. And she has put a lot of behind-the-scenes footage of the show being made on her Twitter. And it is so interesting. She's 6'7", by the way. So it's just interesting to see her wearing like the actual clothes that we see Jennifer Walters wear as She-Hulk, by the way. But she is a very engaging person.
Right, because her face is painted green, like in those videos. Like her face is painted green in the whole nine yards. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there is some of that. It's not all CGI.
Yes. No, she is. And she actually posted, well, I don't want to talk too much about it because it's from a future episode, but she posted herself doing the physical work for a particularly meaningful punch in a future episode. And you saw her body reactions and her facial expressions. And you're like, oh, well, that's how, they get some of this emotion for She-Hulk is they have somebody actually doing this live. And then they put the CGI over that. They layer it over that.
Yeah.
So if you have a chance, follow her Twitter. And let me call out her Twitter here. It is at Malia _Araya, ARRAYH. So, you know what? I might just tag her in this and say, hey, by the way, we mentioned you on the podcast.
Yeah, do that. I saw the video. And hey, listen, you never know. Maybe she'll want to come on and do an interview. We'd love that.
Hey, I love it.
So if she's amenable to that, now that the show's over and there's no NDAs that she can't talk about anything, if she wants to come on, we're more than happy to have her.
Sure.
We'd love it, actually. So the invitation is out there. Contact Donnie or I or on Twitter. We can always set something up if you would like that or if you'd be amenable to that. But yeah, I saw the videos you were talking about, and I thought it was fantastic. So yeah, I'm fully on board if Harrison Ford is indeed Thunderbolt Ross. Bring it on, and we'll see how that develops and how the trades, if the actual trades that I mentioned end up picking up on it. Because I'm assuming at some point, if this is the case, them or Marvel Studios would announce that. So we'll confirm that at some point. So
eventually we'll hear from KEVIN.
Yeah, that was hilarious, but we're not talking about that today.
We're not talking about that today. You'll have to tune into the other episode that comes after this one for She-Hulk.
Yeah, that's right.
Right here on Multiverse Musings, the Vidcast, available on YouTube.
He's plugging for a future episode, which...
That's right.
That's what we do here. We plug ourselves.
Shameless plug.
But, yeah, so that's the news. And then, we'll follow up on it as we have it. But that's it for now. So we will take a quick break, and we'll plug some more of ourselves in the bumper.
There you go.
On the other side of that, we'll come back and talk She-Hulk episodes 5, 6, and 7. So grab some popcorn, grab a beverage, take a bathroom break if need be, and then come back and listen to the second half of our show. Stay tuned.
Don't go anywhere. What's up, everyone? It's the Emerald Enthusiast. For all of your multiverse viewing and listening needs, check out our shows, which include Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Ghostbusters, Power Rangers, the Marvel Universe, and the DC Universe, including the Emerald Echo podcast. You can check us out on Podbean, and remember to subscribe right here on YouTube. That's the Multiverse Musings Podcast Network. From the first podcast to the last. And we're back!
Indeed we are. Like a Saturday morning cartoon, we are back. And we are going to talk episodes 5, 6, and 7 of She-Hulk, Attorney at Law. So, Donnie, catch us up. Where are we picking up from where we left off?
Okay, we're going to start with episode 5, Mean Green, and straight poured into these jeans. I really like this because you see it opens up with the title card being altered to look like it is by Titania, because as we pick up with what we mentioned on our last episode, which is Titania filing for the trademark of the word She-Hulk, which, as we pointed out, is maybe the biggest fourth wall break in this whole series, because She-Hulk basically originated as a trademark issue because Marvel was scared that CBS may create this character and own She-Hulk. So when they bring up the trademark, I like that because that in and of itself, that's a fourth wall break. It's a callback to her actual origin.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive. And it's funny that thankfully she came, the original show kind of spurred Marvel to kind of do that. And so we've got this wonderful character. So, multiple thanks to the original Incredible Hulk show on many levels for creating a solid representation of the Hulk in the first place, and then in a roundabout way giving us this character of She-Hulk.
So, Jennifer Walters is being sued by Titania for the rights to her own name, and she's doing so because she is launching a line of beauty products. And which I thought was just hilarious. That never would have entered my mind that we're going to have beauty products being used against the hero in the MCU, but here we are. And it was done very organically.
Yeah, I mean, on the one hand, it scared me a little bit because the last time beauty products were involved in a superhero
2004,
movie,
yeah, I remember.
It was the Catwoman movie. And, look, I'll say what I'm going to say. Everybody knows. I know everybody's way. Look, I did a live stream yesterday with Nico and Nick Zednick and the boys, because we're talking Black. It was a Black Adam tailgate, and shockingly, Donnie, I didn't click the pen once.
Oh, okay.
So I have to make up for it because I know people are waiting. And back in the day, in 2004, Halle Berry in that Catwoman suit definitely made the list. But that movie was terrible.
Oh, it was awful.
Whenever people say, "Oh, Green Lantern," or Batman and Robin, or Justice League theatrical is the worst DC movie, I'm like, no. Steel looks like Citizen Kane compared to Catwoman anyway.
Yeah.
It's neither here nor there. So when I saw the cosmetic line, I started to get worried. But they played it off differently, and it was done in a solid fashion. The only thing is, I really love the character of She-Hulk, but if I was a woman, I don't know that I'd buy a line of cosmetics called She-Hulk. You know what I mean?
I've never thought about it because I've never really bought cosmetics before,
I mean, ask
except
your
as gifts.
maybe ask your wife. She'd be the litmus test. Like,
I'll have to ask her. Would you buy
find
it?
find that out. Find out. Or your daughters.
Yeah.
Do some market research and let us know. Yeah. Ladies, here I'll tweet this out. Would you buy a line of cosmetics called She-Hulk?
She-Hulk. It would be interesting to see if people would buy that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Holloway, she tells Jennifer that she needs to deal with this situation right away and assigns Mallory Book as her attorney for the case. Now, at this point, Pug and Nikki come up with a plan to get Jennifer a super suit or a suit, whatever you want to call it, from Luke Jacobson. And this is another character that, again, I think works very well on this show. And Book and Walters at this point decide to countersue Titania in hopes of regaining the rights to the She-Hulk name.
Right.
Which leads to courtroom drama, which, again, this show has executed extremely well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So at this point, Jennifer, she also realizes that Todd, who is a person with whom she went on a very unsuccessful date, she realizes that he's a client at GLK&H. And at this point, she has an epiphany that she can use her dating app history to establish a past record of her identifying publicly as She-Hulk before Titania trademarked the name.
Right,
that's really important here. By the way, I like that as a way of organically updating this to be part of the series. A dating app, obviously not something that you would have found out in the Volume 1 comics or the John Byrne run. Didn't exist back then, but it does now, and it played an integral role in this episode.
Yeah, and look, I think it's fine that Marvel's going the route to choose to put modern technology and things of that nature, those apps in the movies, because in terms of so far in the MCU and even pre-MCU Marvel stuff, they've always used modern technology. They've never really, except for Captain America: The First Avenger, obviously, right? Because it was 1940s. But there have been a couple of DC movies, like Superman 78, Batman 89, that kind of chose to leave their time setting ambiguous and not really key in on specific technology of the time or but Marvel has never really done that, so it makes sense that they would include something like a dating app in one of their shows.
Right. I think my favorite example of that, though, is in Avengers, where Captain America rips off that latch or whatever, and Tony asks him, what does that machine run on? And he's like, it seems to run on electricity. Like he doesn't know. He's like, you got me. I think it's electricity. And then Tony's like, well, you're not wrong. So
yeah.
Can you imagine being 100 years in the future and asked to describe the technology then?
Oh God, yeah, no.
Oh man. Can you imagine even people from the 1950s looking at our phones?
If you could transport them to today and just watch, I mean, some of them are alive, so you don't have to do that. But yeah. I mean, if you could go back and show them, hey, here, show somebody from the 40s, go back in time with your phone and say, this is a phone, and they're gonna look at you and say, what?
Right, exactly. This is a phone.
What is that device that you're typing on? I'm sad that my phone cannot communicate with a starship like on Star Trek. You call these smartphones? I think this thing isn't smart. It's a pen in the rear end is what it is. Or like my Fitbit. Me being a Power Rangers fan, for example, the Power Rangers used to have these watches that they could communicate with the command center. Zordon. I don't know if you know the lore, and they could teleport to the command center with all this watch does, right, is tell me that I have to get up and do some, laps. And then it tells me my heartbeat during Leaf games, right? Which I guess is useful.
Which is probably all over the place.
it is. But it doesn't do what I want it to, which is contact Zordon and teleport me to the command center. So, you can call these smart devices, but that's not what I call them. But yeah, it's cool that Marvel puts the modern kind of apps and technology in the show. Now, will that date the shows? Yes, right? But it is what it is.
Well, sometimes it's fun to go back and see old references like that in various forms of media.
Yeah, in about 30 years when they come at us and be like, what was that, that you guys used to use dating apps?
Yeah. Now we date telepathically.
Right, yeah. They do mind melts.
Yeah, we, use a thing like Snoke in Star Wars.
Yeah.
Bridge the gap. Oh, okay, there's my date. Anyway, so we're off on a tangent. We do that here.
Yeah, all the time.
So Jennifer has many of her past dates subpoenaed for the case, and they testify on her behalf, and she is able to win the case. And Titania is humiliated and she is ordered by the court to discontinue sales of every one of her products that bear the name She-Hulk.
Mm-hmm. That would suck. But...
Yeah.
The only thing that was missing from this courtroom drama is a cameo by Judge Judy. I would have really liked to see that.
That would have been interesting.
That would have made me laugh.
Yeah. I would have liked for Perd Hapley to have been there, but that's a different scenario too. Anyway, so it looks like She-Hulk and Book that they start to warm up to one another after, previously being very contentious. And Jacobson agrees to design a new outfit for Jennifer that she can wear as both herself and She-Hulk. And of course, this is going to be what we saw in the trailer. That is the purple and white outfit, which is also on the Marvel Legends figure that I'm currently searching for. So,
and I like the fact that her two co-workers kind of lied and told him that she was a member of the Avengers, to get her in the door. That was pretty funny.
Yes.
And there was that moment where they head to a secret, location where what's the guy's name? The Arrow, that used to be on Arrow.
Yeah.
He's playing with the Avengers toys, he's the toy shield, the toy hammer.
Right.
Which would have been me if I saw an office building that that had those, or I would have grabbed them and started playing with them.
Oh yeah. By the way, I loved the bootleg merchandise that we saw in here, the Avengers and the Avengers. I would. Oh.
Well, the best part is you see that sometimes at like a Walmart or something, where you see a Batman and Avengers packaging, and it's like, I don't know whoever put this here, but whoever did this had one job, and they failed miserably.
Yeah. Go online sometime, and again, we are not telling people to buy this stuff, but you can find plenty of bootleg superhero merchandise out there that is hilarious.
Yeah.
If you ever wanted a 5-pack with Shrek in the Justice League, then you'll find it.
This was not. Well, yeah, that's not something I want to make an action. Was this the episode at the end where the Daredevil? No, right?
No, I believe wasn't this the one where we saw at the very end, just for a second.
Yeah, the Daredevil.
The mask. Yes.
The mask. Yeah, the cowl.
Yeah.
And I look. It doesn't take much. But everybody knows Daredevil's my favorite Marvel character in the pantheon of Marvel characters. From the first attack with the Billy Club to the last. I lost it at that one little quick, because I'm like, there it is, the yellow and red. Little did I know what I was in for only a few short episodes later, which the internet made out to be like it took forever, which it didn't. But because patience is not a virtue on social media, folks. But that's a rant for another time. But yeah, is that anything else in regards to this episode?
No, that's about all that happened on this episode.
All right.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And I really liked it. Again, they kept the issue, the dynamic, and the drama is coming from Jen's personal life and the courtroom. And that's part of what makes this show so original, is that it doesn't rely on fisticuffs every episode to push the narrative along.
Agreed. And I think the idea of a copyright scenario with a superhero,
right,
is a potentially an issue that, if they existed, could potentially face, in the real world. So it makes sense that in this fantastically humorous setting and show, they managed to imbue a potentially real life scenario that a superhero would, a burgeoning, emerging superhero would face. And the fact that, like you said, it reflects what Marvel was worried about way back during the Incredible Hulk television series of the 70s, is very clever. And, I can't say enough how awesome Tatiana Maslany is. She is just incredible.
Oh, she does just a magnificent job. She really brings Jennifer to life. And I'm very much going to miss this show now that it's over. I know there's plenty of good Marvel content on the way on Disney Plus, but this show has been something that I have waited for since the 80s. Since I started reading John Byrne's run, I've always wanted to see She-Hulk, and this delivered in such a massive way. I'm just so happy. So
awesome. So let's
speaking of the old series, the Incredible Hulk series, and we can't mention it right now, but on a future episode, there is the biggest homage to the old Hulk series.
Donnie, I think we're gonna have to review the pilot of that episode, just as a way back flashback type of deal.
All right, buddy. For you, I'll do it.
One day we're gonna. Hey, listen. It's either that or Lego Batman, because I know you're not a fan of that. So
okay, never mind. I'll do the Hulk. Never mind.
But
you got me. I give.
But let's go ahead, and before we move on to the next episode, let's rate this.
I'll be like Edge when the Judgment Day was ready to hit Beth. I quit.
How can you attack poor Beth there? But anyway,
that was brilliant writing. But that's another podcast.
Yeah,
anyway,
we have to do one of those eventually. But let's rate this episode. So letter grade. Go ahead.
Letter grade. Give it an A-.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. A-. Yeah.
So episode number 6, Just Jen. So Jen is invited to a wedding to be a bridesmaid of her old friend Lulu. She arrives, though, and she's very happy because she's commanding everyone's attention because she is, of course, the She-Hulk. And when she arrives, Lulu is upset because she's like, hey, I'm the bride here. I want you to just be Jen. Which conjures up a lot of emotions for Jennifer because, again, there are some, feelings of insecurity as herself, and which is understandable the way, especially some of the men have treated her in this series. Right. And she wants to be the She-Hulk, and she is asked to be, just be Jennifer Walters for the wedding.
It's an interesting dynamic on this show in that Jen wants to be herself, but she, as the series has gone on, she really started to embrace and enjoy, to an extent, being She-Hulk. So I like that dynamic, that she's now struggling with, you just want me to be Jen? Right where early on in the series, she probably would have jumped at the chance of just being Jen, right? So you can see the dynamic.
Again, character development.
Right,
That's what we're saying now, yes.
Absolutely. So yeah, this was an interesting element to watch play out. And then, I think you alluded to her as her one-time um, her one-time best friend, I think you alluded to her as, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is her old friend Lulu.
The
And
way
what?
the way she
Go ahead.
treats her,
Oh yeah.
I wouldn't want to be friends with this person.
No, she makes her do a whole bunch of kind of menial pre-wedding work, and Jen is obviously frustrated. And then to complicate matters, and of course that's what you do with good writing, you put one problem on top of the other problem for the hero to solve, and we see that one of Lulu's groomsmen is dating Titania, who shows up at the wedding.
Mm.
So Jennifer,
Titania is starting to get on my nerves, I will say.
We did get, for the people that said there's no action at all in this series, we did get, I thought, albeit short, a very effective fight scene at the end of this episode.
Oh yeah, we did, yeah. We did.
Yeah. So Jennifer seemingly has a stroke of good luck. She meets a man named Josh Miller, who is a friend of the groom. And we're getting a weird buzz.
I don't hear it.
I'm hearing a weird buzz on your end.
I don't hear anything.
Okay.
Everything's recording, so none of whatever it is.
Oh, I can edit this part out. I just want to make sure that we weren't being overpowered by this buzzing sound. Anyway.
Brainiac is attacking. No.
Exactly. I'm telling you, it's Ultron. It's Ultron in our electronics today.
Ultron and Brainiac, they're teaming up. Which is not I'd call a Cyborg, but I don't want to.
Yeah. So
then he start crying about Jeff Johns and Walter Amada. So just leave that alone.
Yeah. So after the fight that I just mentioned earlier, where Jen ultimately wins and Titania gets her mouth, roughed up a little bit. By the way, did you notice that you actually saw her at the very end, the artwork? You saw her getting dental work at the end?
I like how the artwork reflects what happened in the story and potentially beyond. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, you can't take your eyes off of that artwork because it resolves story points at times.
Yeah.
Which which makes sense to me. It's a show based on a comic book.
Yeah, very clever. Very, very well done.
Yeah. So, Book and Nikki are working on a divorce case for a superhuman named Mr. Immortal, who has repeatedly faked his death to get out of several marriages when they went bad. And man, is this story point hilarious.
It was funny. I thought, I'm like, this guy, he deserves to be sued, to have the pants sued off of him. Just because what he put all these women through. However, as somebody who likes to say that he traverses the multiverse and has multiverse wives, I could find myself one day in one of these situations where, if I get sued by all of them, Donnie, I may be in some trouble. So.
Right. Now you have to bring the other versions of yourself to say, hey,
it's not my fault. It's theirs, right?
Right. It's
that's
Earth negative.
Yeah.
Earth negative 32, Adam.
Yeah, that's my fault. That's not my fault. I'm just hopping in and out.
The Habs breaker.
Your grievance is with that jerk, not me.
Right. Exactly.
Wasn't me. That song. I know Donnie won't get this because he's not musically inclined. But if anybody knows who Shaggy is.
Oh no, he's the I don't know the lyrics, but wasn't me.
Yeah, it wasn't me.
Yeah.
That's my mantra. If I ever get in trouble with any of my multiverse wives, it wasn't me. It might have been, but I'm just gonna say it wasn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think there needs to be a negative or Earth negative 32 out of the Habs breaker, with the glass like the Dawn breaker, except
that's a good one. Yeah.
Blue and white. Yeah, here we go.
Yeah,
All right. Hockey reference, by the way. Anyway, so all right. So compounding the problem, we see that for Mr. Immortal, 8 of his spouses, ex-spouses obviously, they all file suit against him after learning about his identity from this online website called Intelligentsia. which this becomes a major story point going forward.
Yes.
Yeah. And in the midst of this suit against Mr. Immortal, which by the way plays out hilariously, watching, each one of the spouses get basically a piece of what they deserve from, this deadbeat spouse. Book and Nikki discover death threats that are directed towards the She-Hulk. And the website is maintained by an individual known as Hulk King. And we see that one of the goals here is that there are also scientists working for Hulk King to spy on Jennifer. And part of their plan is to get a blood sample from her.
Right.
The way this plays out, though, is awful. I mean, the way she's manipulated is awful. But I thought this was a strong episode.
Well, I like two things. That Nikki was the one that brokered the settlements, plural, for the eight ex-wives of this deadbeat husband.
Yeah.
But more importantly, I like the fact that Intelligentsia, the website, is basically Marvel's way of calling out, poking fun, highlighting the ridiculousness of the trolls online that are on websites like Yellowfish and those kind of sites where all they do, and Geeks and Gamers and all these losers, well, all they do is, oh my God, it's a female-led show and she's strong and she's independent. Oh my God, we hate it. It's forced. It's blah blah. And so they're making fun of all these pathetic losers that actually have these websites and YouTube channels that all they do is go on and spread hate, because Brie Larson didn't smile at a.
By the way, and if you think we're being harsh, actually on the She-Hulk show, they included some of the very misogynistic responses when this show was announced 3 years ago.
Yeah.
So this is not a baseless thing that we're saying here.
No, and I think it's smart by Marvel, and particularly using the nature of this show to do that, because too often these losers, these pathetic fools, get away with reprehensible things. So good on them for being called out and exposed, right? And of course they'll get offended by that, and cry some more, right? But I think we as a fandom culture, no matter what fandom you are, because it's in every fandom, we have to call out these pathetic fools and get rid of them from our space.
And if there is validity in the way that this show is being written at all, if you think that they're somehow coming at you unnecessarily, a lot of female fans, exactly. A lot of female fans have talked about their treatment in nerd circles that are mostly male dominated. Let's face it, there's a lot of female fans out there for things like the MCU, but there are more males. And they've talked about their treatment online at cons and things like this. This stuff happens. It's built on reality. Maybe you don't want to accept that, but that doesn't mean that it's not true.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Boy, we're preaching today. All right.
So yeah, anything else you want to speak to about this episode, or can we go ahead and read it?
No, I will say that there were some people, and again, I don't think there's a lot of Mr. Immortal fans out there. The way the character was used was a little reductive, but this is obviously a very different version of this character. So
yeah, I mean, they're gonna at some point, you have to just accept that the MCU is going to make changes to suit whatever narrative the particular show or film is trying to get across with certain characters. Like the Thor from the movies is not necessarily the Thor I read in the comics, in the tone and sort of the.
Definitely.
Whether I like it or don't like it, at some point, they're not gonna change it for me.
Right.
So I just got to deal with it, and
you got to learn to love it because it's the best thing going today.
There's one of two choices, right?
Woo!
Right. But I can either walk, which is what I say to the cultists all the time, the center cult. I'm gonna get more obnoxious and more because or whatever the line is. I've retweeted it several times. But anyway, I can either, as a fan, I can either choose one of two things: accept that Thor and the Hulk are being portrayed a certain way and watch it, or nobody's forcing me to watch the next Thor movie. So if I come on here and say I'm unhappy with Love and Thunder, if Taika Waititi's back for another Thor movie, I at this point I know what kind of Thor movie he's going to deliver. If I'm that unhappy with it, I just won't watch it.
Right. And yet, you and I have talked about how we haven't liked the handling of the Hulk in the last few years.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that we make 10 TikTok videos on it.
Yeah.
And go on and on and on and tell people not to watch the MCU.
Yeah, exactly. So, right. Yeah.
So, the other thing I want to say, narratively, and I'm going to give this episode a B+. Okay. Narratively, I think this worked. This wasn't my favorite episode, and I'm going to tell you why that's okay. This was kind of taking the breath before we, just take off running with Intelligentsia and Daredevil and some of these other really big things that end this series. So this was a way of, again, having a fun, kind of self-contained episode almost until the end, but I liked it. So,
yeah.
And I think, it's kind of a time-tested thing where you have a big flourish at the end with a series to have an episode that kind of gives you just a moment to take your breath before you jump right into that. So,
I mean, and again, you and I today seem to be in sync, and not the boy band, but I'm also going to give it a B+. Right? So, but they, to their credit, they acknowledged that it was kind of a filler episode. They played with that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So
yeah, she broke the fourth wall and said that. Oh my gosh, a wedding episode right here. Yeah. Because, and again, it worked. So
right, and look, I know people were upset when this aired because, oh my God, where's Daredevil? Where's Daredevil? Relax. It is what it is. But again, it showed like her back and forth with her friend or her so-called friend or former friend, and her kind of, to a point, her awkwardness and loneliness at the wedding. That can sometimes be a true representation of wedding. Now, two hulking characters don't break out into a fight at a wedding, but everything else surrounding.
Well, they could. You never know. If you
I mean, drunken idiots have, but not.
Right. Brock Lesnar and Braun Strowman at their wedding. That could.
Right. No. But what I'm saying is, that kind of awkwardness and things like that. That stuff happens at weddings. So.
Yes.
Again, it was true in lieu of this hyper, fantastical comedic situation. They were sprinkling in some actual, a factual representation of
reflections of reality. Yeah.
How certain people feel at weddings, and also the stuff with Intelligentsia called out the right kind of losers, and I appreciated that. So B+.
Right. By the way, Jennifer, She-Hulk in the wedding dress. I appreciated that. Anyway.
Oh, I did too. Yes.
All right, so we move on to
Tatiana Maslany is on the list.
Well, that's and again, but I was speaking specifically of She-Hulk and
of course. The CGI.
Yeah.
Donnie just see me click the pen for a CGI character. That's what he's angling for.
So, episode 7, The Retreat, which this is an episode that I really didn't see very much of this coming, but I liked the direction that it took. I thought it was interesting. There was one problem that I have with it, but we'll get to that later. So, Jennifer goes on several dates with Josh, and then eventually they become intimate, and he seemingly just disappears after they spend the night together.
They do the Hulk smash. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. But then he ghosts her, not like Ghost Rider, but he ghosts her. So
well,
Jennifer,
actually, I'm not going to go there. I was going to I was going to do a reversal of words. I'm not going to go there. Never mind. Carry on. It's PG-13. Got to remember that. Carry on.
Yeah, we got to keep it PG-13 here now.
Yeah,
so anyway.
yeah.
So at this point, we see Jennifer spend a significant portion of the episode very anxious that she's not getting a text back from Josh. And in the meantime, she receives a call from Emil Blonsky's parole officer who tells her that, who informs her that the inhibitor and that stops Blonsky from turning into Abomination is malfunctioning, and she wants her to accompany him to Blonsky's retreat, the summer twilight, to check in with the Abomination. So, again, I didn't expect that. I mean, I knew that the Abomination was going to show back up. I didn't expect it to be in the form of a retreat or what we saw, but...
Yeah, I think so. Like the whole ghosting thing and waiting for a message.
Mm-hmm.
Again, that is a thing that happens, and I know a lot of people who, at certain stages of their relationship, have they send a message. And they're waiting to see if it was delivered, if it was ready. That crap. I've seen it happen. Like I've been out with people, and they're constantly checking their phone to see, has this person read a message? Have they responded? So I've seen that kind of thing happen.
Right. Well, if you think we could text the Leafs and say, "Hey, when are you going to bring home a cup?" Would they text us back?
If I'm waiting for a response for that. The question is, not will they respond? Right. Will I be alive when they respond? Because at this rate, who knows? But I should start ghosting the Leafs. Is what I should, as a sane individual. That's what I should do, because that's the most toxic relationship I've been in. I tell you. But no, but I've seen that happen to people. So again, it's a representation of the unfortunate reality of dating and having instantaneous messaging capabilities. You get caught up in that kind of behavior, or you can get caught up in that kind of behavior.
And this is what Jen chooses to deal with while she is at the retreat. We see that Blonsky is holding a session with characters, and this is going pretty deep into the Marvel mythos here. Manbull, El Aguila, Porcupine, Saracen, and Wrecker of the Wrecking Crew, who we saw earlier in this series.
Right.
And she talks about, again, her dissatisfaction with the way her relationship with Josh has gone since he just disappeared.
Right. I'll be honest, I had no idea who 3/4 of these characters were.
The only one with which I wasn't familiar was Saracen. The others I had seen in various comics or media before. So, and I thought they worked very well. The only problem that I'll say that I had with this episode, and I think it comes with a bigger issue with this type of resolution later, is I thought that what Jen did with Wrecker, being that he was part of a group who assaulted her, she was mad for a few seconds and she kind of tossed him around, but I thought there needed to be more consequences for him.
Okay.
Which, they redeem him and that's fine, but I really thought there needed to be more, mistrust from her and, maybe throwing him a couple elbows or, doing a few things to get a little bit of revenge and let him know that don't step out of line again.
That's a fair assessment, but I did like that they kind of opened up. Like once she became Jen and she kind of opened up to them, they kind of opened up to her. So like that, and you see that there are the lesser villains. Are you could be misunderstood and you kind of sympathize with them, which is fine for certain villains that work. I don't necessarily want to sympathize with Doctor Doom per se, but for these C and D listers, I'm cool with it.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. So basically, what this group does is they convince her to let go of her negative emotions here and delete Josh from her contacts and just let it go.
Yeah.
So,
and I will say it was a little weird seeing Blonsky be this kind of guru, self-help kind of healer kind of thing, therapist. It's so weird seeing him in that role, but
again, in a comedic show like this, I definitely think it works.
Oh, I'm not saying it doesn't work. It's just weird.
Yeah. Right. It took a period of adjustment, sure.
Yeah.
So the big revelation, though, at the end of this is that we see that Josh has actually cloned Jennifer's phone after they were intimate and stole a sample of her blood on behalf of Hulk King. So things are about to get very bad here, and that's where we end.
The perils of online dating on display.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, and also, ladies, by the way, always check to make sure that the phones aren't pointed in your direction if you're doing anything intimate, because that comes back into play.
Yeah, and you know,
in the words of Stone Cold Steve Austin, DTA, don't trust anybody.
Yeah, and you know, the sad fact is that you say that. I mean, you say that in light of what happens in the episode, and it's fictional, but back when I was in high school, there was a situation where a girl took a certain type of pictures of herself with a guy that she was, and sent them to a guy that she was dating at the time, and that fool, for as polite of a word as I can use, decided to print these pictures out and post them around the school, and that caused a whole host of problems for that young girl, and
I'm sure,
and it was unfortunate. So
I hope he got some consequences for that.
If I remember correctly, I think there were, but I don't really exactly remember what exactly it was. But so what Donnie is saying is, yes, he said it kind of in jest to go along with the show, but it is a factual statement. Especially if you're younger, you're a teenager, be smart.
Yeah.
Chances are, look, I hope that your relationship with whoever you're with lasts forever. Yeah, I really wish for that idealized situation for you, but chances are it's probably not going to last. So you might want to be careful what kind of pictures you send to this person.
Right.
I mean, do whatever you're going to do safely. Like if you're going to engage in that, if you're going to do some Hulk smashing, do it safely. But by the same token, don't be doing stupid crap that cannot, like, once you click send, right?
Right. Once it's on the internet, it's there forever. So
yeah, or if he decides to print it out, you're asking for trouble. So just be careful. Don't trust every guy, especially or a girlfriend.
Well,
we're not saying guys are the only culprit, but
sure.
Being one of them, I can kind of tap into the way some might think. I would never be inclined to do anything like that, like to use something that private against somebody else in a way like that. But there are guys, men, boys, however you want to phrase it, that are stupid and think that would be, oh, look at the conquest, or look what I did, and so just be careful. Is the advice I can give, and the fact that I'm giving advice, it tells you that I'm getting older, which is not something I want to think about. Here we are. But look, I have a 5-year-old niece now, and I feel that I have to show some sort of responsibility, and and give some positive advice to young ladies when I can offer it.
Well, that's a good thing. Yeah. And I would say that to anybody. Again, this is reflective of things that go on in the world. The fact that everybody has a camera in their pocket now.
And no future, by the way, if any future boys that are listening to this, if you're listening to this when my niece is a teenager, so in about 10 years' time or later, leave my niece alone, damn it, or I'll come after you. You're going to face some trouble.
Yeah.
But I digress. So there it is. But what did you think of this episode in terms of a rating?
Again, I'm going to give this a B+. I thought it was another really, really fun one. Like I said, I had my issues with, the way Wrecker was, the resolution with Wrecker and She-Hulk. But again, this is another good example of character development. Again, without tons of smashing and without, or, fighting at least.
Well, there was smashing.
Yeah, exactly. But again, that's what set this series apart, is that it was able to develop so many characters in a different way than we've seen with previous Marvel installments.
Yeah. I'll give it a B. Like I said, Blonsky in that kind of role was a little weird for me. Also, the C or D listers. I mean, they were there and it was fine, but it's not like it.
I really like when Porcupine took off his mask.
Yeah, they're talking about the smell.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
like, to me, the main part of the episode that it took away from was the reveals of intelligentsia and who's behind it and all that. So it was a B for me. Solid, decent, but probably the weakest of the bunch for me so far. Probably the weakest, considering we only have 2 left for next time. Yeah. Probably the weakest of the series, but it was fine. So there we are. We're making our way through She-Hulk. Overall, you can see we're enjoying the series. That's where we are on She-Hulk. Of course, you can talk about us with She-Hulk or anything else on social media, especially anything green. If you want to talk with Donnie, Donnie is very fond of the color green.
Yes, as you can see.
Yeah. So if you want to talk to Donnie about She-Hulk, Slimer, or Green Lantern, you can on social media. So Donnie, where do they find you?
You can find me on Twitter or TikTok as the Emerald Enthusiast. Let's talk collectibles. Let's talk comics. Let's talk Green Lantern.
And if you want to find me on social media, largely talking about or complaining about the Leafs, Snyder cultists, or looking forward to Black Adam, you can find me on Twitter at Adam_LeafsFan. We also have a Twitter page for the network, which is at MMNPDC. We also have a Facebook group, which is somewhere in the description below. Click that. I will add you, and we can continue the conversation there. But until next time, remember that She-Hulk is forever. From the first ill-advised She-Hulk smash in the bedroom to the last. So long, everybody.